Hello and welcome to the Hoop Troop podcast. I am Matt O'Connor, and joining me as he does on all of our shows is my cousin Luke Drobner.
What's up, guys?
And he's eating a little dinner here. We got a little variance on I'm on the East Coast, he's on the West Coast, so I'm keeping him into his dinner time. But he's eating some nice chicken dinner. Looks pretty good. So if anyone hears any slurping or I don't know, ravenous eating, it's all Luke. He's just being an animal.
If you watch the video, you can see my disgusting eating habits.
Yeah, for our YouTube fans, this might be the end of it. That or they might want you to actually make them dinner. Honestly, it looks pretty good. I'm impressed, Luke.
I could do like a little.
Look at that action.
Oh man.
Yeah. All right. So speaking of good action, there's one thing I want to touch on because I know that we said that we were going to do a little preview on a couple teams. There's one thing I wouldn't be a true fan if I didn't mention it because it just happened within the past 2 days. Frank Ntilikina, my favorite player in the NBA, has not only left the Knicks, not necessarily by his choice. I'm sure he would have come back, but he is no longer a New York Knick, but instead he is now a Dallas Maverick. He signed some 2-year, like 1-and-1 deal with a team option, which breaks my heart because of all the teams for him to go to, he had to go team up with Kristaps. Like that is, I want to root for him and I want to see the team he's on succeed. But then again, like I don't want to see Kristaps win, so I'm pretty conflicted now.
If you look at their comment sections on all those posts, people are like, "I hope Kristaps gets traded so I can watch Frank."
I mean, like, yeah, no one, like even Dallas fans don't like Kristaps, so it's like really funny. But that said, yeah. I am happy for Frank because like my bias and fandom aside, there aren't many better places for him to go to like revive his career because he's going to be playing off ball there no matter what. It's either going to be Doncic or Brunson with the ball, which is perfect because then he can go be an off ball defender, spot up 3-point shooter, and like kind of establish
which is what he's best at.
Right, exactly.
I think we're going to see the Mavericks play a lot like the Slovenian team did for the Olympics.
I could see that.
Luka just has the ball all the time and he just makes a bunch of plays.
Yeah, yes and no, because like I think that they've done a little of that in the past, and I guess it also depends what Jason Kidd comes in and wants to do. But like Kristaps doesn't like it. Like he doesn't like being an afterthought in an offense, which again, like it doesn't overly matter, but it kind of does when you're paying a guy like close to $200 million, like over his contract. Like you kind of want that guy to be happy and contributing in the best way he can. I agree with you though. I think the best way the Mavericks operate is just let Luka do his thing, and then that's that.
If Kristaps is unhappy, my record is worse. I get a higher draft pick, and maybe I can draft someone like a Kawhi Leonard at 15 or something like that, right? Like,
yeah,
someone nicely paired next to Luka.
Yeah, well, and I think that's the other thing too. Like, I at some point you need to stop pandering to them as a core and look at like, right. Look, Luka, you in an ideal world want to treat as a Dirk who's going to be here his whole career, and you do anything to keep him happy. And if it's not working with Kristaps, like that's not it. But you have to make him your priority. Which on a very small level, I think bringing in Frank Ntilikina does that because now he doesn't have to guard him. He put the clamps on Luka every time they played each other. You don't have to worry about him now.
He puts the clamps on everybody. Let's be honest here.
Oh, hell yeah, he does. Best player in the NBA. One positive to come out of this is I'm going to be able to buy the Frank jersey now, like the Knicks Frank jersey, for super cheap before they send it off somewhere else.
I see.
So I'm going to sneak in there, get my Frank jersey before they go overseas. Yeah. All right. Now that I got that out of my system, because there was no way I wasn't going to talk about it.
You have
So we each picked 2 teams, and we want to do a little preview. I think we should start with one of yours.
Okay.
I want to start with the Pacers because I know you wanted to bring them up.
Yeah, let's do the Pacers.
They're a fun team, and I feel like they were super active at the beginning of the offseason where like they hired Rick Carlisle, and then it kind of got a little quiet. But I don't think they had to do much, and I think hiring him was pretty monumental. But this is your team. I want you to give whatever.
Yeah, so I mean, I think you did a really good job of opening that up a little bit. I kind of wrote about them last season, mostly because the team hasn't changed. I mean, you hear a lot of people talk about like continuity, and you have guys who play together for a long time and they end up performing better. So they got like TJ Warren's coming back from injury, Miles Turner questionable here and there. Karis LeVert didn't play half the season. I think they were one of the teams that struggled a lot with COVID. I know Miami and Boston were also having problems, but I think Indiana was also one. So, but I mean, like they also have a lot of their starters are Brogdon, LeVert, TJ Warren, Sabonis, Turner, and then they have guys like TJ McConnell and Jeremy Lamb off the bench, and Justin Holiday, who's a good shooter.
Right.
Maybe they lack a little bit of depth at center, but they have. I think they drafted somebody, and they also drafted Chris Duarte, who looked good in.
Yeah. And I think that was part of the appeal for them in drafting him, because they're not looking for a project who you're going to develop. Like, he was one of the older players.
Now.
Right. He was one of the oldest players ever drafted. Like, he really is a plug and play guy. I didn't like him in the draft kind of for that reason, but that was also because he was getting drafted in that higher range. But for them, it made sense. Like, I get it.
Right. And they also added Torrey Craig. I just want to mention that as well. So he honestly plays like that forward role, because after TJ Warren, who's get thrown in there, you know?
Right. And like, I think that they are in an interesting spot because they can play pretty loose as far as like a traditional 5-man setup where you have your true point guard to your true center. They have a lot of guys who can fluctuate a little bit. You can mix and match some lineups. Exactly. And the reason I'm excited about them, and I think a lot of people might not be, I really didn't like them last season, kind of for the same reason that I actually do like them this season. I didn't love the Sabonis Miles Turner fit originally, but
I feel like Turner's always in trade rumors though.
Right. But here's the thing. Rick Carlisle in his tenure with Dallas, what did he excel at?
Playing those bigs. They played centers and then Chris Stapps right next to him. So.
Right. And even before that, Dirk Nowitzki, like he specialized in stretch bigs. Like that was kind of his thing, and it really worked. And they won a finals doing that. And granted, like, no, do I think any of the players on their team are Dirk? No, I don't. But I think his experience.
You have the formula.
Exactly. And so I think that with a couple tweaks here or there, I think that team could be awesome. And I also think, like, again, like I just mentioned, how they can be flexible in their lineups. Like you have a couple stretch bigs that you can play around with and like do some different things. And, you know, maybe some things that worked for Dirk work with Sabonis, but then, you know, you want to try something else with, you know, Miles Turner. I don't know. Like, I think that is super intriguing to me.
I see Turner a lot like Porzingis, where, yeah, he's 7 feet tall, but is he really like a center? Is he somebody you want to play center? He's like an average rebounder for a big, right? I don't have the stats on me right now, but I don't think he's the best rebounder. But he shoots, he plays defense, he blocks shots, right? So they have a similar player build, Porzingis and Turner. So,
I mean, yeah, like I'm pulling up his stats. Like over his career, he averages like a little over 6.5 rebounds a game, which, you know, it doesn't seem like that has really changed. But
if you play someone at center, don't you want him to grab somewhere between like 10 to 15, right?
You got to be, yeah. But I mean,
like he's a power forward, and it benefits you to have Sabonis on the roster because you can play Sabonis at center, you can play Sabonis at power forward. Right.
Except here's right, exactly. I think that they in past systems didn't really complement each other well. Even now, like you still don't have that like bang down low big that you kind of need. But I think that like realistically, if you look at those Mavericks teams in the past that Carlisle had, I'm trying to think. It was like Brendan Haywood was the center on those teams. Like it was never anyone that dominant. I guess you had Tyson Chandler for a little while.
They won the championship with Tyson Chandler.
Right. But so that's like probably the best center they had. But he also, the way he played was way more defensively oriented. Like it's not like he was really a focal point of an offense. Like it was more he was a piece to the prize. Where I think now with these guys, you can be more versatile, and I think you can still use that Tyson Chandler mold with Miles Turner. Miles Turner averaged 3.4 blocks last season. That is nuts. Like that is,
he's a good interior defender. He's the modern version of what like JaVale McGee is, or like DeAndre Jordan on the Lakers right now. Like, DeAndre Jordan's just gonna run and dunk.
Yeah. No,
and Turner's kind of changes that role a little bit where, yeah, I'm a center, but the only thing I really do for you is kind of vertically space the floor. And Turner doesn't necessarily offer the vertical spacing or the rebounding, but he offers the defense and he offers floor spacing because he can shoot threes.
Right. And actually, it's interesting. I'm looking at this, and I guess I haven't overly studied his 3-point percentage that much.
It's
He
okay.
had, yeah, it's not as good as I thought. Like, I thought he was a better stretch big than he was. He had one season, 2018, 2019, where he shot like 38, 39%. But then for the rest
He's
of
like
his
a 30%
career,
shooter.
he's like, yeah, I'd say he averages like 35%. But then
It's
I'd say
very
realistically, looking at his other years, it's probably a little lower than that. I feel like he had the one outlier year.
you almost see it like a Draymond Green. The difference between Turner and Draymond Green is Draymond Green's going to step out and guard a Steph Curry, Damian Lillard. He's going to guard a LeBron James. You can't do that with Miles Turner, right? He kind of has to guard the opposing team's big, but he's that body you can put on someone like a Jokic, right?
Right.
Or an Embiid.
Exactly.
And I think Embiid is the better, because you don't want to put Sabonis on Embiid. You need someone to guard Embiid for you, right? So I think Turner kind of fills that role where he's just a defender. He's a piece in the puzzle. So,
but again, now looking at this team in the East, what is their ceiling? Like, they're not like a 1 seed. Like, they would need to be active at the deadline to be an Eastern Conference contender. Like, they would need to have like almost like a Heat-esque core where, you have your go-to guys, they're gritty and they're going to do their specific role. They're going to excel at it, where you're not going to have these stars who can kind of do it all. It's more like you have your guys who know what their role is and they do it well. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I think you can add to that. I think that they can be a little more aggressive if they want.
They're definitely a bottom 4 team when it comes to your top 8 seeds.
I think
but
so.
I have them down as 4 to 8. And in my mind, I think they're a playoff lock. They might fall down into the play-in, but I can't see them losing the play-in, right?
Right.
If they go up a team against like Charlotte or like other teams that might be down there at the bottom, like the Bulls or New York or someone like that, I feel like you can kind of see them beating those teams. They're competitive within that group.
See, it's interesting. And I'm not even going to use the Knicks. I'm going to use the Bulls in this case. Like, you think they're definitively better than a team like the Bulls? I think they're like very much in that.
I mean, the almost, it's the same exact roster basically, and everybody on that roster has been to the playoffs. The Pacers have been a playoff team in the past couple of years, so in a 1-game series, I think they understand. I think they can put it on the line, and like you said, a lot of those guys know their role. They're going to play very cohesive basketball. They're going to make you play 48 minutes. Do they need someone to take another step? Like, if they wanted to be up there with the Bucks and the Nets and whatnot, they're going to need Paul George, right? But they don't have that. But I still think they're a great team, and I still think they can go far. And like Caris LeVert, I think Caris LeVert's going to give you 20 a game, and he's proven he can put in 40, 50 in a game as well. So,
definitely,
it's so hard to doubt them.
Yeah, I think I am more like, I like them for what they are. I don't like them in the like with the actual view of the conference and I guess the league as a whole. Like, I just think that they lack that true firepower. But that said,
they're not a contender, but they're a good team. I agree.
Like, I could very easily see Sabonis becoming an all-star again. Like, that would not shock me under this system. And I wouldn't be shocked if we are having like these serious conversations about Brogdon and Caris LeVert in like almost like a coming out year where they're like a most improved type player. Like, you look at it like that.
I could see Caris LeVert having an all-star year this year.
Yeah. I really, if he can stay healthy, I think is really the kicker there, which I know last year wasn't really his fault with the, what they found internally. Like, that was, just kind of what it was. But like, and even so, the freak accident too. Like, I guess looking back on it, he's just been unfortunate the past couple of years. But I could totally see it. All right,
let's move on to someone else. We have 2 other Eastern Conference teams here.
Okay, cool. I want to talk about. I'm gonna. I mentioned the Heat. Let's talk about the Heat because they're one of the ones that I want to go to. All right. They are a better version of the Pacers team in my eyes because I think that they are deep at a lot of positions. I think that they have a lot of role guys who know what they need to do. I think that they have veteran leadership that the Pacers don't have. And I think that they have a general toughness, and maybe it's just the experience of having gone to the finals 2 years ago and Lowry having been there a couple of years before, like I think that they have all the pieces in place to go win a championship. Like I legitimately I would not be shocked if they made the finals and honestly won it. I don't think it will happen, but if it did, I wouldn't be shocked because like look at everyone on their roster, top to bottom. Like you have Lowry who's won a championship. They signed this is strictly the people they added this offseason. They brought in
PJ
Tucker, exactly.
Markieff Morris is now on the team too, and Oladipo comes back. I know Oladipo's been in and out, so
right,
like you said, they're so deep. So you have guys like Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson. Kyle Lowry's obviously going to get minutes too, kind of replaces Goran Dragic there, but
right.
Like,
but I think
Oladipo is not going to have a high workload, and you can kind of load manage him. And if you can get all-star Oladipo in spurts, that's great off the bench. Is what your sixth guy, your seventh guy, right? So
right. Well, and that's the thing. Like I think they got better because they added depth. They didn't lose a lot. Like I know they traded away Kelly Olynyk last year, but like that's not the end of the world. Like it really isn't.
No,
when you think about what their team looks like now, I do think like I don't love Hero, but again, versus him starting, him coming off the bench and being him with Oladipo, your second unit, like again, if they could stay healthy, like that could be a pretty solid backcourt.
I mean, realistically, you're going to end up starting Robinson at the 2, right? Lowry, Robinson, Butler, Tucker, Adebayo. So
I would imagine
Oladipo come off the bench, and I think Oladipo ends up playing more of like a point guard role, where you're not going to see Oladipo jacking up shots or anything like that. He's going to be more like Alonzo Ball, and Tyler Hero is going to be your scorer. So I think Oladipo is going to be the 7th guy, and Hero will be the 6th. Which I think, like, I'm not upset with Tyler Hero at my 6th man, especially if he comes back and has a great year. So you've seen him do it before.
Yeah,
he's had good years.
I mean,
if both of them could give me like 12, 4, and 4, I'd be happy with that as my second unit backcourt.
I honestly think you could probably even expect a little more from both of them. Like I could see one or the other getting to like 16 a game. Like I could see them taking on this more of like a 6-man of the year type role where you're looked at as the spark plug to come in and score. Because if you look at that starting lineup, like none of them are like bona fide scorers.
I think Jimmy Butler is. I think Jimmy Butler gets to the rim. And that's what they need, right? They need one guy to get to the rim, and you have an option. Do you cover Jimmy Butler and let him take layups, or do you let him kick it out to Kyle Lowry and Duncan Robinson? And I think Adebayo is a good center. I think Adebayo does a lot for you pick and roll wise with Jimmy Butler, and I think he can kind of get his own shot off as well. So
right, but looking at Jimmy Butler for his career, and I don't even want to look at his whole career. I'm only going to look at his time in Miami. Over the last 2 years, he's averaging about 20 points a game. Like. Yeah, yes, he's capable of going for 40. Like we know that, we've seen that, he's done it. Is he capable of doing something like that, or like even less? Like is he capable of going for 24 a game? Can he up the scoring that much?
If he can get 24 points on 16 shots, and you get 18 from Lowry and Adebayo, I think that's a good team. And
definitely.
I like your Pacers comment where you're like, I see the Heat as the upgraded version of this Pacers. And I think that's due in part to Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler is an advantage over a Karis LeVert or a TJ Warren.
Definitely.
So you kind of see their ceiling goes higher. And I agree with you. I could see them going all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals if they hit the right, like they have the right momentum at the right time. But they still have to they're going to have to beat the Bucks or the Nets in the second round. And that's kind of what's stopping them there.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, I think that's the kicker too, is like, who are you going to see in those opening rounds? Like if you see, for example, we'll use the Pacers. Are they your first round matchup, or is it the Knicks? Is it the Celtics? Is it you don't know who you're going to have to play. And so I think it depends on matchups. And then also like, you never know, like Philly could suck or they could be good again. Like you don't know where you're going to see them. Could that be a first round matchup? Like that's brutal.
Yeah. I have Miami here as high as 2, but no lower than 6.
I agree. I think they're realistically in the top 4. I'd be shocked if they're.
I think so too. 2 I think is as high as they're going to get. The Nets are going to have a good season. The Bucks are going to have a good season. One or the other, as high as 2.
Yeah.
More realistically, I think they're going to be like 3 or 4, and that's just because I think someone we don't expect is going to have a great season, and the Heat will take a little bit of time to warm up together. So
Right.
I have them finishing third with about 50 wins, squeezing out a first round win against like a Sixers team or a tough Pacers team. Maybe even the Bulls give them a run.
The Hawks, though, too, are another one that's in there. Like, I think that there's going to be some weird matchups. You're right, though. It totally depends on their path. Because if they get the right matchups, sure. I have no reason to think that they wouldn't make it. But, like, if they catch the wrong team at the wrong time, they're in trouble.
It's the Nets' year. I think the Nets come back and just kind of understand where they need to be health-wise. And I think their roster is definitely more cohesive this year with the three of their stars having played together a little bit.
So I think what last year showed with them is it does not matter what seed they are. It doesn't. They could be a 6 and not have home court the entire playoffs, and it wouldn't matter.
And still win. Yeah.
And still win as long as they're healthy in the playoffs. So, like, I think they're going to put more of a focus on success. Success in the playoffs. And, like, fine. If we have to go lose a game against the Magic for no reason, like, whatever. Like, they don't care as long as they get in.
And that's the argument for maybe the Heat finish first, or maybe the Hawks finish first. Right? The Hawks are this young team. You kind of see it with like the Suns finishing high up in the West last year, and the Bucks doing it when Giannis was first becoming an MVP candidate and things like that. Right? You see him finish first. They have such a great season. You could like realistically, if Trae Young has an MVP year, Hawks finish first.
I mean, I could see it. They're deep. They're versatile. Like, but then
if he has a Curry-esque season, he could possibly win MVP and lead them to the first seed.
I just think if it's not the Nets, it's probably the Bucks again. That's my they've been so consistent, like even after through success and whatever, they've been there the whole time. And like their team didn't overly change. They're kind of the same team. I guess they lost PJ Tucker, but like in the regular season, that doesn't strike me as a huge loss.
You can figure out some type of like take advantage of that deficit somewhere. They have people on their roster, so
yeah.
All right, let's move on to a different Eastern Conference team. Just finish it out. So the Sixers here.
Hell yeah.
Sixers are a hot topic as always. They're in the media all the time. So
we have to talk about it. We have to.
Ben Simmons.
He's a disaster. Like I think
he's a little bit of a diva now. You kind of see him almost like a Porzingis, where it's like, we understand you're good, but if you come back and kind of be the same guy every year,
he hasn't gotten better.
Continue to be a fan. He hasn't started taking threes. He hasn't started doing anything that makes you say like, this is different from when he was a rookie. He's shown no growth, and it really doesn't benefit the Sixers at all, especially because you see Embiid year after year continue to be special, continue to work on something that he was missing, right? But you expect that to get that out of Simmons and kind of take it the next step, but they haven't been able to do that.
Well, and my thing with him too is like he's not doing himself any favors. Like I think this whole I'm not reporting, I'm not talking to you, I'm not doing this. Like
he brings a bad energy.
It brings a bad energy.
You don't want that on your team.
It's not necessarily going to get you traded. They're under contract for another 4 years. Like, why do you think that that's going to get you on another team? Like, they have no reason to get rid of you. If anything, you're just going to get fined and you're not going to get paid this year because you're not showing up. Like, you aren't. The only way you're going to get out of there is if you show up and you hit a jump shot.
Right.
Or you show
the way out. But he's too insecure with it. Where like when you think about a scoring threat and a star, you kind of expect them to be a little bit of like an asshole a little bit, and know that this is their shot and they can hit it. And he just doesn't seem to have that. And when you draft a guy first overall, you want him to know he's that guy. Like a Jalen Green. Jalen Green comes out here, he's like, I'm the best. I should have been drafted first. That's what you kind of want out of your lead scorer or a leading scorer.
But here's the thing. And you mentioned this the last time we recorded, and I think you're entirely right. The Sixers are not going with him as their lead option. He's really more of their like, all right,
he's the second guy to Embiid.
We're on Embiid's timeline. We're going to do what's best for him. We're going to focus the offense around him, and it's kind of at your expense. Like we hope that you can be around for it, but it's not. So that's why I look at him and I'm like, if you put him in the right spot, he could be dominant. He really could.
Right.
It doesn't feel like it's with Philly. I think everyone would agree with that.
It kind of makes you think about the process a little bit here.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, we have so many number one draft picks. One of them is going to turn out to be good. What happens if you have 2 first overall picks and they have to play together, right? Like,
well, that's the thing. Like, it's the age-old question of, do you take best available or do you draft for fit? And the Sixers, throughout the process, they drafted best available. They took Embiid, the third or whatever it was. They took Ben Simmons 1. They took Jahlil Okafor 2, 3, whatever. 3.
I don't remember.
Okafor went third, and then they took Fultz 1. So like,
Fultz was unreal in college. It hasn't worked out for him, but in college he looks like the number 1 pick.
But if you look at all those picks, like, you could maybe put 2 of them on the same team and it would make sense. But all 4 of them, say the process had worked out like as
they had Nerlens Noel too. He was drafted top 5. So that's what I mean. Like, so at some point in their timeline before we came to this roadblock, you need to say this is Embiid's team, this is Simmons' team, and get rid of one for assets. You can continue to go around one guy because both of them are going to be your lead player. You can't have 2 lead players.
Well, so you can though, and that's the thing. They just really need to complement each other well. So that's why, like, look at a lot of these. Like, I'll go back from championship winning teams, and I'll go since 2000, like Shaq and Kobe.
But at that time, Shaq was the MVP, and Kobe knew that. I think Kobe was a great player, and Kobe did everything he could for that team to win. But part of that was deferring to Shaq. When it was time to win, Shaq was
a little, but that's also kind of what brought their downfall a little bit, because it was eventually Kobe's time and
Shaq didn't want to go.
Right. But moving on from there, you go to like again, it's unfortunate that Shaq's my next example, but the Heat with Dwyane Wade and Shaq, like another good example of a 2-man team. I think you look at,
but Shaq was near the end of his career. Like, I hate to continue to play devil's advocate, but Shaq was at the end of his prime. Second option to Wade. Wade won the Finals MVP. Still dominated, don't get me wrong. Chris Middleton and Giannis last year, at times Giannis knew to defer to Middleton. He was like, this isn't my time. You need that. But it seems that Simmons wants the ball in his hands, and Simmons wants the Sixers to be his team so badly that it hurts the Sixers trying to give Embiid the chance they want to give Embiid.
Now, what about like LeBron and Wade? Like, I think that's another example where
Wade deferred to LeBron. And LeBron came to South Beach. It was LeBron's team.
Well, I'm not saying that
like Chris Bosh was an all-star in Toronto.
I'm not saying that they won't defer at points, but I still think like both of your star players can eat in a system and like absolutely thrive offensively, and it not necessarily. Yeah,
it seems that they butt heads, right? In all these situations, there was some type of understanding where, at times it was him, and at times it was me. You know, and when everything is at the worst, right? When shit hits the fan, who do they give the ball to? Simmons or Embiid? And we know that it's going to be Embiid because Simmons can't hit a shot.
Right.
So
no, you're right.
But Simmons has still continued to be arrogant and say, it's my team, I should have the ball, I should be making plays, and he's proven that he can.
Yeah, no, and I think that's why I look at the Sixers team as constructed, and I still think they're very good. And I think they are still very good.
Very, very good.
Even with him on the roster, I still think they're like a top 3 team in the East.
Tobias Harris is a great player, and Tobias Harris could be the second guy to Embiid.
Definitely.
It's about filling in the holes. If Simmons isn't there, where does his value go? And that's the concern I have.
I think you'd want like a true point guard, like a who can like stretch the floor.
Like, would you trade Ben Simmons for Colin Sexton? And Colin Sexton kind of understand, not straight up, but you make a deal, something like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would make sense. I don't know why Cleveland would
or like if you could go to San Antonio and say like, we'll give you Simmons for a whole bunch of role players and Derek White. Would you not take that deal? I think Derek White's a good player. I think Derek White could be your third option.
So I think that's the issue with where Morey is at mentally. He's pretty much dug his hole that it's Dame or nothing at this point. Like, that's pretty much what he set himself up for, which for one reason, there's no guarantee that Dame is leaving. 2, even if he is leaving, who's to say that you're going to have the best package? Who's to say they want Ben Simmons? You don't know that. Like, the Rockets didn't want Ben Simmons. Like, it's no guarantee. And so that's why I look at this and I'm like thinking kind of along the lines that you're thinking, like, you might have to settle after all of this. Like,
a year ago at the beginning of last season, they could have traded for Harden.
100%.
But Morey was like, oh, like we're going to trust Ben Simmons here. Why would you not trade for Harden? And, you know, we see these decisions all the time. You have to really credit a guy like Masai Ujiri, who had a DeMar DeRozan. And DeMar DeRozan was an all-star, and he was so great. And he's continued to be great in San Antonio. But he said, you know, DeMar isn't going to get us over the hump, and he traded for Kawhi before DeMar's trade value plummeted. You know, he made a really, really hard decision. He made a gamble, and it worked out for them. And you have to do that at some point, right? There should have been an understanding, right? But you know, you also create the same problem where Harden comes in. Does Harden expect it to be his team, or do you still allow him to be the player he is? So
yeah, no.
So I had the Sixers being as high as 3, but I could even see them falling into the playoffs down there at like 7. So
wow. That's interesting. You have them falling. I guess if this does blow up and it gets ugly, I could see it. But like,
that's what I mean. Like, you don't really know with this team this year. They could potentially be amazing, like they have been, or they could kind of flop.
I mean, we're a month out from the season.
Mm-hmm. I mean, at this point, it doesn't seem like Ben Simmons is going to be back to help him.
But I don't know that he's going to get traded before the season, though. Like, I haven't seen anything to suggest. Yeah, I mean, I think he's stuck. I think he's just not going to show up and isn't going to make money. And
if you're going to trade for a young player, why would you do it at the trade deadline and not at the beginning of the season allow him to play with your core the whole year?
Exactly. No, it doesn't make sense. And that's why, like, at this point, I think it's on Morey not pulling the trigger on whatever other offers are out there. And he's just like, I'm waiting for Dame to say I want out.
You got to bite the bullet, in my opinion. You really, really do.
But is that the best move? Because
if Simmons is willing to come back and bring a good energy, great. But whether
Simmons likes it or not, he's under contract for another 4 years. They could wait until after this season and trade him.
I don't think Ben Simmons cares. I think he makes so much money off non-basketball activities. He doesn't care.
I don't know.
Pay those fines. He's already worth what, $60 million. He's fine. He's under the Rich Paul umbrella. There's no way he will fail, right? LeBron would never let him fail.
I don't know. I don't think LeBron wants to be associated with any of this.
I don't think he does either, and that's why Rich Paul is there.
Yeah, that's a good point. Right, because you think about the people that LeBron has stuck his neck out for. KCP's of the world, who are getting defended. But
that's what I mean. Like, think about all the guys like J.R. Smith and Amon Shepard who got big contracts. Look at Kevin Love. He's like, I don't want to play for the Cleveland Cavaliers, but LeBron got him paid, and Kevin Love's happy to get paid.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's why he's not taking the buyout. But
exactly.
Yeah.
So, all right. We mentioned the Blazers a little bit.
Let's switch it up. And that was a good segue because we talked about Dame a bit. All right, you roll with this. This is your other team that you want to talk about. So what do you think?
They added Tony Snell, who is the best shooter in the NBA. Best shooter in the NBA. I'm pretty sure he's missed like one corner 3 the whole year last year.
He did have a pretty sick shooting season, but
so
it's just funny. I think adding him best shooter in the NBA.
I think adding him to the roster changes things a little bit. The biggest concern that I have with the Blazers is the fact that they have no guard depth. After Dame and CJ, you have Anthony Simons and Dennis Smith Jr., which is like super concerning.
Yeah, because it's really not good.
If you want to be up there with the Lakers and the Jazz and the Nuggets, you need a 6th-man option, and I just don't think they have that. Unless you're moving Norman Powell to the bench, but even then.
And like you think this through, like, again, not that Melo was great, but he was a bench scorer for you. Like you did lose some pieces this summer, and you didn't gain that much. Like you really didn't.
They got some shooting, but they added Larry Nance Jr., who I think is an upgrade over Enes Kanter. But even then, like, who's making plays off your bench? And unless Dennis Smith Jr. has a bounce back season, where Anthony Simons takes a step we've never seen and has like a most improved player season. Right. I just can't see them being a team that's going to push you to play 48 minutes of basketball. And they're going to need to play Dame 40 minutes a game to be competitive.
But that feeds right into, is he going to just say, like, screw this? You guys haven't done anything for me. When have they done anything to show that we are buying into winning you a championship? They haven't.
I think Damian Lillard's done it the right way. You know, no complaints. Every time he's asked by some random fan if he's going to be there or not, he's like, I'm here. I'm with the team. We're going to win a championship this year. I believe in us. And that's what you want to hear.
Yeah.
Behind doors, it doesn't matter. If Damian Lillard's going to the front office and saying, look, I'd like to get out of here as soon as possible. As soon as you get a deal you like, please move me. That's fine. But the fact that he's coming out and saying the right things gives me hope for this roster, right? I don't think they're going to be bad, but I don't think they're going to be great.
I mean, are they better than like a 6 seed tops?
No, they're going to be in that play-in area.
Right, but if you're Dame, where your window is closing, like, why are you still there? Why are you still there if that's what your horizon is?
But we don't know we don't know what the truth is, right? Maybe he is going to the front office and saying, please move me. And you kind of have this Ben Simmons scenario where it's like, we're just not getting the right packages that we want.
Right.
And it's upon Dame to be understanding of that and understanding that it's the team's trying to make it work just as much as he is. So, if it really comes to a point where Damian Lillard demands a trade, I'm sure he'll get it, but he's bringing the right energy. He's bringing the right, mindset to the team, which I think helps the Blazers do what he wants.
Yeah.
He's a perfect employee, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that. Like, I think he is very much an old school type basketball player where he is very committed to the organization that drafted him. And to a certain degree, like, they really haven't done him wrong. They've been incredibly successful his whole career, but they haven't made that move where it was like, we're going for a championship right now. Like, they haven't. Even if it's like the Nuggets trading for Aaron Gordon, and granted, like, it's there, like, it stakes that, they have that other injury and like it kind of derails their season, but like that is at least signaling, hey, like, we think we can win this thing right now. We're bringing in a big name player. Like, they've never done anything close to. Aaron Gordon isn't even like an elite player. Like, but that's still a signal that, hey, we're trying to get you a championship.
Right. You would like to see them try and blow something up. You'd like to see them move CJ McCollum. You'd like to try and see them move Nurkic if you're trying to win with Dame right now.
Or like hemorrhage your picks. Like, they haven't. It's not like they've done any of those.
It's the small market curse, right? If they trade away Dame, they need a package. If they trade away CJ, they need to know. Because if they trade away CJ and it doesn't work out, they're screwed. The franchise loses revenue. They have to rebuild from nothing. They don't have assets, right? So it's really, really tough. You have to draft that guy, and
I look
Damian
at it.
Lillard was supposed to be that guy.
Let's look at it through the lens of the Bucks, though. The Bucks couldn't get over the hump, and then they sent 3 first-rounders to bring in Drew Holiday, who, again, good point guard, not like a prolific NBA. Like, is he going to go to the Hall of Fame? Probably not. Like, I just think even that, though, was, granted, you have Giannis and Middleton.
They had Chris Middleton.
But you have Dame, CJ, Nurkic. Like, you have a core in place. Like, you could make the pick trade to bring in a sweet wing who's going to help get you over the hump. Like, I think
Covington.
That was Covington.
He's a good player. He shoots threes. He plays defense.
But Covington
if you're gonna run unless you're moving CJ McCollum to the bench, like, who and how do you bring in a player better than CJ McCollum? That's the argument right now, right? It's like, if you're really trying to make that move, you have to bring in someone better than CJ McCollum. Doesn't that mean you have to give up CJ McCollum? You can't trade,
I mean, I think that you have to experiment with that. I don't think you want to do it, but that's why I think, like, and granted, now it might be too late, but I'm saying a couple of years back, like, they should have been ready to commit and be like, hey, here's, we know Paul George is on the market. We're going to go pull in Paul George. Like, I just think there was shit that they could have done that they didn't. And that's why I wouldn't blame Dame for being like, hey, screw this, I'm out.
And he might be. We don't, it's so difficult to understand what's actually going on. And I just really like the team's watching out for the team. I'm sure Damian Lillard's watching out for Damian Lillard. It's just unfortunate because, you expect Damian Lillard to be that guy, and he really, really is. But you always have other teams. Like, Golden State was always so much better than them. And I'm sure at some point, right, like, if it wasn't Curry, Thompson, Draymond, And then, then LeBron comes in and LeBron's not on the Lakers now, right? Like there's always somebody better than them. And I think that has to do with obviously your roster. And like you think about the players who are winning championships, LeBron, Giannis, Kawhi, Kevin Durant, like those are the
Right.
guys you want. And Damian Lillard doesn't fall within that build, but definitely within that prestige where he could be the Kyrie to someone's LeBron. And I
Right.
think that's kind of what he needs to be. And finding that situation where the Blazers put him in that situation to be the Kyrie to someone's LeBron, I think,
Yeah.
it's patience at this point. So
I mean, I
it's
agree with
tough.
that. I look at it in a way where they've needed, God, it dates back when they had LaMarcus Aldridge, like they've needed that wing, like they've needed that like 3-4 combo wing.
But LaMarcus Aldridge didn't want to be there anymore and he left, and that's unfortunate.
No, right, exactly, and that's like I don't even think you can blame the front office for that. He wanted to go, but
Right.
I still think like even say he stayed, I still think you are missing that wing. Like it's not like LaMarcus Aldridge can be guarding those guys you just mentioned who won championships. Like you need that strong wing presence to win. And like the Bucks brought in PJ Tucker. Like there's just they had Chris Middleton who kind of plays that
Chris
way.
Middleton and Giannis. You look at the Clippers, they got Paul George and Kawhi. You look at the Miami Heat, they had Wade and LeBron back then, right? Like
and now Jimmy Butler. Like you have the teams that are successful have those good wings.
If you want to win a championship, you need a primary scorer, playmaker, all around great talent who's somewhere between 6'6" to 7 feet, right? Like that. That's just the formula at this point.
Yeah, I mean it's clear. I think that
you're not going to get it done with it.
There are ways around that. Like I think that you can, if you get lucky. Like I think the Suns in most years, like they just ran into a hot. Yeah, I guess, but he's not necessarily like the playmaking build. Not yet. You're right. We haven't quite tapped into that yet. But yeah, I know what you mean. Like I think, I don't know. I waver because I guess though, if you go back, you look at all these championship teams, they all had one of those sick wings.
Unless it was Dirk.
Honestly, back to Dirk, I think.
Or the Golden State Warriors without Durant. But even then,
right, but Iguodala was injured Cavs team. Iguodala was
Iguodala's not it. It was Curry.
I mean, he won Finals MVP. Right, I know. It's not.
Right, yeah. So where do you think you put the Blazers in this year's playoff race?
All right. Well, I think
I got them with a first round exit. I think even if they make the play in and just the play in, like they're 7 or 8, they got to win that first round easy. If they're going up against a team like the Mavericks, it's a win, So
I think the West is just so damn competitive. Like they might miss the playoffs. They actually might not even make the 100%
could. I can't doubt them because we say this every year. We're like, I don't know, they could miss the playoffs, and then they're like the 5 seed or something, right? So they got to be. Like, in my opinion, they're going to be between 5 and 8.
I'm gonna work back, and I think there are teams that are definitely ahead of them. I'm gonna say it's the Lakers, the Suns, the Jazz, the Nuggets. This is in no particular order.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
Lakers, the Suns, and the Jazz, the Nuggets. I think the Mavericks are ahead of them.
Sure.
I think then it starts getting interesting. I think the Warriors are, like, even with Clay being whatever Clay is going to be.
No, the Warriors are going to be good next year. Just Curry alone.
It's at least 6. In my eyes.
So that's what I mean. They're gonna be somewhere between 5 and 8 because the Warriors are a question mark, the Mavericks are a question mark. So you could see them as high as 5.
Then you get into like the Clippers, who are going to be good. You get into the
Clippers are going to be good. Clippers will be up there. I have them competing for spots with Golden State, the Phoenix Suns, and the Dallas Mavericks. I think they're all going to fall somewhere between 4 to 9.
Yeah.
All those teams.
And realistically, as good as I could see teams like Memphis, New Orleans, Minnesota being this year, like not as good as the Blazers probably. But would I be shocked if 2 or 3 of those teams ended up better than them? No.
That's what I mean. You could really see them down there at 9.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like that's why I wouldn't be shocked if something goes wrong. Like say they have because they did have a slow start to their season last year, and then they totally pulled the nose of the plane up and ended up getting into the play-in and playoffs.
Right.
But is that a guarantee? I don't know that it is. Like I think this team is going to be very I just think it's going to be. I could see it being disappointing, and I could see Dame saying, "Hey, screw it, I'm out of here."
I think he already has.
Yeah.
I have such a hard time believing that he doesn't want to be out of there.
Yeah.
But like, you can't do what Ben Simmons did. You just like,
No, you're right.
Career wise, it ruins your career. I would never want Ben Simmons on my team right now, and that's just because of the way he acted.
I mean, although
but
like
Damian Lillard, I'll take Damian Lillard.
Look at Harden, like coming in all chunky, like not
Harden's
like go
different.
to strip clubs, and yeah, I agree. Harden like has a resume that says, yeah, I can act like this.
Right.
Sort of. He still can't act like that.
And he also, Harden's a top 10 player. You can't. Simmons is not that. Damian Lillard is that, right? But I think Damian Lillard's still doing it the right way. In a heartbeat, if the Sixers, if I offered a package to the Sixers and they were like, oh wow, this is a lot, we'll trade you Ben Simmons for it, I'd be like, oh, okay. And then I'd go to the Blazers and I'd offer them the same package. And if they were like, we'll give you Damian Lillard for it, I'd take Damian Lillard.
Although Dame's aging, like, I don't know. But yes, I agree. Yeah, it doesn't matter. You're going to win. That's why.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
All right. Good episode.
Yeah, no, I'm glad we did. We'll start banging these out. We have a month before the season, so we'll start doing a couple teams a week or so. Rip them off, see who we're thinking is going to be in contention here. But this is a good start to it. All right. This is the Hoop Troop Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. We'll have more for you guys leading up to the season.